All right. Hello. Good day, good morning, good evening, depending where you are in the world. If you're in Madol, the topic of today's Woo Woo Wednesday, what time is it there? Is it like Australia, like Gold Coast? Shout out Gold Coast lady. Tiger New Zealand, all the Aussies and Kiwis joining in, and the Polynesians, if you're watching. Look at this pentagon. Perfect pentagon, and these perfect blocks, these wave blocks. And while talking about blocks, 10:21 p.m. Wow, it's quite late. It's 6:21 a.m. where I am right now. And so Guan Pandong, look at this. Oh, new member. Shout out Pinch. Thank you for the support. Everything is appreciated and needed, and bless your soul. Everything helps. The memberships, you do get early access to some videos as well as exclusive to some shorts and stuff. And here we are. Look at this other Ant Atoll or Ant Alice Atoll to the top left there. Stuffy Island. And then Nan Madol at the bottom. And just the tip, this right here, Nan Madol, look at that. That's what they officially have to admit exists as structures. I believe that's over 100 official structures here. And why they had to admit to its existence is these LiDAR imaging, and the LiDAR don't lie. And look at that. We have these bastion pedals, your classic StarFort style buildings. And is this a fish, a whale, some sort of geoglyph right next to this bastion, this pedal of the StarFort of Nan Madol and Nan Madol. There we go. Bit of a tongue twister here. And look at the different, well, these look like batteries, your classic StarFort batteries. And this is from above in the portion of this Nan Madol, which, when you see right here on the Google map there, that little red dot at the far south here, that in fact, most likely the entire island is terraformed and is made, well, artificially constructed somehow, of advanced canal work and megalithic construction on just a ridiculously demigod-sized creator builder level. Like it's insane, but what else is it? And it's literally in the middle of nowhere. That's another thing that is so astounding about this Nan Madol. And they say they can't admit a date to it. And look at these just absolute perfect, like, canals running today, thousands of years, if not tens of thousands of years since it was constructed and wiped out in the prior catastrophe. And look at the inlet of the bay as well, these artificial coastline. That who was building this in the middle of nowhere? Like, literally, there's this, and there's this crazy atoll right next to it, and then there's absolutely nothing. 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 I have to. And how's the sound? How is the sound? I'm guessing and hoping that everybody can hear me good. All right, here's the image I need to share. Bear with me. We will find it. Here we go. What? Maybe Papua New Guinea could be the closest to this. Look at this right here. Boom. That is where Nan Padong is. So Nan Madol. So this right here, this guy, who built this literally in the middle of there. Okay, so they say basalt columns. The entire island is made of basalt columns. And right above the tip of Oscar the Grouch there, and Bert and Ernie, you have Nan Madol. You have this, Pentagram Island. And Nan Madol right at the tip, this being what they admit actually exists. Okay, but the entire island is clearly artificial. And oh, yes. Oh, I haven't even gotten to the best parts, right? Because here, look at these coastlines, the canals that go in. And then when you get the LiDAR, the LiDAR don't lie. You can see these straight canal lines up at the very top. And then whatever this red, the redness is, what is that? Is that plant? Is that fascinating? I don't know. LiDAR don't lie, but I don't know what to tell you about what that there be. Fascinating to me. But the point being, the canals extend far into the entire island, that giant pentagram, and a volcano don't make no straight pentagram that then has these perfect wave blocks and coasts, inner coasts and harbors. It's absolutely insane. The Saudis and the UAE, Dubai could not dream of making something like this, and totally up top accompanying it. It's, well, looks like a portal island potentially, past and or present. What is going on in here? It's yeah, right there, right in the middle of nowhere. So how do people just sail there and start artificially building? And so the fresh water, and that you bring that up, I was absolutely blown away. So here we go. Let's start looking at the pictures of what is going on in Nan Madol with the basalt columns, because, well, look at these megalithic polygonal structures that literally survived thousands of years. The locals refuse to go near them, apparently. Speaking of StarForts, we have a tour, and They got a drone above them showing they're on the base of a former StarFort. And then all these abandoned megalithic, well, cities still standing of stone, of basalt columns, but not. Look at these monolithic, megalithic, macro columns. This is just nuts. Primitive people didn't just come out and make this and make it earthquake proof. This is hurricane proof and earthquake proof. This is what everybody needs to understand. What actually wiped this out? Because these design, it is actually earthquake and hurricane proof. So what wiped out this original civilization? What was the catastrophe? And like the ruins still thousands of years later, perfect condition, the canal's still clear. How, like, it's absolutely stunning and mind-blowing. And look at this. Who stacked all of this? Who built Madol? So, right, probably nuclear war. And speaking of it, pray and work for world peace daily. You beautiful, awesome souls. We do not want the same extinction level events. They do say they often see orbs. Orbs are frequented in this area in the evenings, but grass growing, trees, gardens, and the structures of still stones. This is another island in Micronesia or Macronesia, the latte stones of Mariana. Mariana, or maybe this could still be on the same island as Madol. I'm not sure. This, though, this is on the same island as Madol, and I was blown away when I saw this, and wow, Wawiwa, we need to go there. We need to do a retreat. Theresa Lily, good day, good morning. And now you're a moderator too. Everybody gets a blue wrench on this channel. Jeremiah, if you're still watching, I did send you the link if you want to join. Shout out Dariana McLean, Alex, Bob John, Aurorian, Rain X12, Tigers New Zealand, Gold Coast Lady, Tea Leaves, Pinch, new member. Thank you. If I'm missing anybody, not intentional. And Blue Star, how are you? Oh, Adam, good day, brother. Hope you are doing well and blessed be you, my man. You and me, my brother Adam, need to go and visit this waterfall together and meet tigers from New Zealand there, because it's probably pretty close. And we'll join the technicians, my brother Jeremiah, with us and observe. Oh, you seen? All right, you're just listening for the moment. Well, we will continue the tour of this perfect pentagram island, this man-made macro structure. And Tina Bean, welcome, good day, wherever you're from Florida. And you're also a blue wrench. Everybody gets a blue wrench on my live chat in YouTube, because you shouldn't be deleted. You should be able to share, and the rest of it. Continuing on with the tour of Wow, we need to go there. And look at this. These are people in the foreground, not the background, foreground. Look, there's other people actually on it. Okay, those are kids, but still, it's as tall as the coconut tree. The palm tree is still same height. This is Yap Island, supposed money stone megalith on Yap Island, another micro Polynesian experience. All right, okay, that was the end that way. Let's go the other way. Look at the canals, though. So just these aren't just walls; these are full buildings, and that these are also island buildings, so they could go down as well. And they do seem like they're 2, 3, maybe even 4 stories tall in some areas, still standing. And if they are star forts, well, then they definitely do go down several stories as well, underground canals, as well as the, well, complete perfect canals we're looking at. And this is what lines the canals, crystal clear, fish infested. That's a good thing, right? Looks like a coral reef, but without the coral, and just perfect shipping, swimming, fishing, man-made canals, and man-made city that still stands. That is the wonder of the world. It's nobody knows who built this pentagram island in the middle of nowhere. Papua New Guinea is the closest, so New Zealand, I think you're a close runner-up for second. Samoa, Hawaii, maybe 3. I don't know. Look at this, though. Just every single direction is buildings with perfect canals, still in pristine condition to this day. Like, look at that. Is this a freshwater channel coming in, or maybe brackish? I bet you this is brackish. I guarantee you these canals are mixtures of freshwater, brackish, and salt, and that they have it built naturally flushing itself. I am willing to put money on that as this place gets explored, and I've seen many others that are similar to this with these ancient Grand Canal systems. And look at the water breaks. Just the size and scope of it all is astounding. A beach. Just castles and perfect cubic square forts every which way. Polygonal structures, earthquake proof, megalithic basalt columns. Like, this is a paradise. Like, oh, the hurricane's coming through. That's okay. We have our freaking 10,000 million ton stone castle. Ridiculous. It's crazy. Just crazy. Can't say this would burn down. And again, the one pedal area. but all of this, all of it, and you can see it's all canals everywhere through the thick, dense jungle growing on top, and with fresh water fed from it. This being a freshwater waterfall coming from the interior of it. There's a giant horseshoe in the center that collects. And look at this carving. Is that a sphinx right there? Or what is this? This is definitely some sort of anamorphic figure, centerfold, no doubt about it. And again, the scale of people compared to the runes left behind. This mysterious Nan Madol. Yes, Taiga, New Zealand. Indeed, they do. The first time I talked to, shout out to Dutch Sense, my man Dutch, earthquake forecasting at its finest. The first time we mentioned it together, and I did a stream on Nan Madol, he's like, dude, literally the next day there was this crazy earthquake in Nan Madol, like, or at least USGS reported there being one. Who actually knows if there was? But it's kind of like the Antarctica, where there's like zero reported data ever, except for when they want to just randomly put one out, just to like fuck with the data and the official statistics and all this. Like, it's just crazy stuff. But yeah, shout out to Dutch. If you follow his work, you know what I'm talking about. If not, you should check it out, because it's next level stuff. All right, let's continue with Nan Madol, the StarFort Island in the middle of the Pacific Island macro. Like, again, these perfect breakwaters, canal entrances, just it's mind-boggling. It really is mind-boggling. You have breakwater, inner outer canals, starting the lines of the castle fort houses going into a complete jungle that is covered just oh my goodness, it's crazy. So that's, oops, sorry, wrong way. And again, this polygonal basalt construction methods that make it earthquake and hurricane proof. The story of the big bad wolf that huffs and puffs and can't blow or burn down or even hurricane out Nan Madol's megalithic macro giant ass artificially constructed Pentagon Island, ancient island in the middle of nowhere. For those just tuning in, this is what we're talking about. It's a giant pentagon, and Nan Madol is at the very bottom here. And this is what it officially looks like. Over 100 structures recognized officially with the Nan Madol, and they had to officially recognize them because of this here, the LiDAR mapping, and you can see the petals there, this bastion, StarFort, and then these outer giant megalithic walls, and then the inner city of it here. And then I guess this would probably be lava if it is a volcano spot, if some sort of volcanic eruption happened. But clearly underneath it and proceeding up to the northwest corner are these identical canals carved into every angle, and that it is all artificial. So it doesn't just end here. It completely it was showing that there was some sort of lava flow or some sort of flow over, and canals all the way up and through, just like this thing right here. You can see it all up in the corners there. And look at this. It's literally, it's mind-boggling, the scope, and then it's covered by trees. And you get more lush as it goes into the brackish and freshwater areas compared to the outer brine. And you have your geoglyph here on the this fish or whale or something, but a clear island of a geoglyph as well. Who made all of these ancient islands that are literally in the middle of nowhere? It's a mystery that has not been answered. Has not been answered, and we're taking a look at this mystery today on Woo Woo Wednesday. Here we go. So, Temwin Island, they claim, is what Nan Madol is, but in fact, I state that all of Temwin Island is definitely the exact same as artificially constructed as what the official Nan Madol is. And I'm gonna also say that if it ever is able to be discovered or properly explored, then LiDAR, that most likely the entire Nan Madol Island is going to be artificially built of all of this polygonal basalt macro megalithic structure. Just mind-blowing, the scope of it, and that there's legends of scuba divers and snorkelers and fishermen off the coast of it, doing their daily fishing runs, finding underwater cities and stuff, like just lost crazy amounts of what is this. And yeah, here we have Gunung Padang, the famous what is definitely pre-cataclysm Indonesian basalt pyramid that Graham Hancock has had work on, and but has an NDA sadly related with now. But a crazy ancient site that they believe is at least 24,000, maybe 36,000 years old. Quite fascinating, but just well, it looks like we have a very similar building style, material, and potential, same civilization. And again, you see this full pentagon, and right here is Nan Madol, and it's this little Niue Island thingy, but I'm saying at least all of this is artificial, but most likely this is artificial. And this is. I know that there's coral on it now and a coral reef, of course. I'm saying it was probably built the foundation, and well, the coral has grown with it since, and self-sustaining sort of thing. Designed by the master builder race, whoever, whatever they were, giants, demigods, I don't know, aliens, maybe, God, probably something built all of this, and they are starforts, they are megalithic. And here we go. This Florida Keys, another artificially constructed island with no history. Again, the map of the official Madol. Just they try to claim that it's just a little segment sunk off of the corner of Tenwin Island, when in fact the LiDAR there shows that Tenwin Island is completely made up of it. This is Meldon Island. So this is an old picture of Meldon Island, and also basalt columns. Here we go. You can see still these crazy canals going everywhere, crisscrossing into this jungle. This being brackish, and then you go in and you start getting fresh water. Right, so up here is where the tide goes in and out, giving your brackish daily tidal flush, and that giant waterfall, water spring collecting, whatever, however the plumbing works that they built, feeds the freshwater inner areas for, well, plantation life and using. Right, so it's like these people did not, and these people's ancestors did not build these structures. They themselves, their wisdom keepers, their oral traditions all state that the gods came and built them. They just inhabited them afterwards. And I believe them. I believe the gods, the demigods, someone came and built this long ago. Here we have a picture from 1902. This is a picture on Miwi Island itself. So this is on the island of Madol. Yeah. Just crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. All right, I've been talking for at least a half hour now, so I think I deserve a little break, but also that it is, well, time to transition smoothly into the next topic, that is the StarForts. And, well, we'll let Olaf the Sverker, shout out to my man Olaf in Scotland, and the discoveries he's shown, and that I've done further research on verifying, and these 1,000-kilometer long bastion StarFort walls from Crimea, aka Little Tartaria, to through Siberia into main Tartaria on the ancient maps, which is also to the Siberian Arctic Sea or Ocean, I believe, but in the ancient maps called the Mar de Tartar, the Sea of Tartaria, the ancient sea, and that these bastion walls as you'll see right here, as Olaf is about to show and explain, run from the Azov Sea in the Black Sea of Ukraine-Russia border war right now, all the way through pretty much the line of contact of this current war of what, well, the indigenous people of Crimea are the Tartars. Still living there today, ethnic Tartars. And if you've seen Tartarian Truth's work or Ancient Historia, shout out to Luke as well, following the real research of the Tartar people and the remnants of them today and their amazing ancient language. And I'm going to shut up and let Olaf the Fricker take it away for a bit, showing the Slavic or the StarFort here, and then I'll also play his video of the 7,500-year-old Slavic calendar that predates the Gregorian Catholic, Jesus, whatever modern shenanigan dating system. But yeah, that's a whole other podcast and rabbit hole, wormhole.
And send it to you. So if you want to upload this into your own account, then feel absolutely free. Now we get to where it becomes obvious. Krasny Yar, Samara, it becomes obvious that this is some form of defensive line. I've tried to plot it. It sort of sits along modern day boundary lines, but it moves around again so much over the years. But Alexivka Fortress, this was, if my memory serves me right, a fairly interesting one. My memory does not serve me right. You can almost make it out there. Have I got any pictures? Nope. But again, you don't have to look too far to see the remains of some other weird structures. What has went on here? That's what happens when you have massive reservoirs and the people that take over attempt to dam them up or change the flow of the water. I believe in a lot of these cases the water was used as a weapon, and they had flooded and washed over a lot of these fortresses. That's why some of them are so hard to make out. So this next one is extremely interesting. The amount of man hours and work that went into this boggle the mind. So we have Alexivka Fortress here. The remains of Alexivka Fortress. I don't know. I wonder if I've got any photographs of it. No. And if we open these points up, we can see from here, if we follow this all the way up, it looks like we're following a natural tree line, when in fact we are following the remains of a giant, and I mean it, absolutely giant wall. And that becomes obvious when we see structures such as this. This is the defensive line, a massive ancient defensive line. That is a StarFort petal, just on a massive scale, and it carries all the way up. As you can see here, there's another. Some of them are more visible than others. There's another, and another, and this was created in a time without tooling, without machinery, without electric batteries or DeWalt drills or diggers or dumpers or skid steers. There's another. Mile after mile after mile, and another, and another, and it carries on this way for miles until we hit the next star fortress, which if we follow this up, we'll keep following it. There's another petal, and another, and we see strange structures all the way, but when the people in charge of history lie to us and tell us tales, we can't be quite sure what we're looking at, other than when we see common sense objects such as
Oops, sorry there, muted. And I paused it here just to show these bastions, this bastion, these petals, this ridiculously giant wall, and that These walls are probably ruins of there's canals running through them or around them, and that we've found parallel canals still running, matching them, and just keep watching. This is crazy what Olaf, and shout out to Olaf, the Sverker, is showing here. I will post the link for the full video right now as this continues to play.
And it carries on this way for miles until we hit the next star fortress, which if we follow this up, we'll keep following it. There's another petal and another. And we see strange structures all the way, but when the people in charge of history lie to us and tell us tales, we can't be quite sure what we're looking at, other than when we see common sense objects such as this. That is very clearly some massive ancient earthen ramparts. Whether or not these structures at the side yet were anything, we cannot determine. But we do not build walls on this scale today. There's another petal. And another. Absolutely perfect geometry, perfect straight lines. And like I say, how far has this went on for now? And we carry on following these petals all the way up until we hit the next StarFort, which I will quickly go to. And here we have. If I can zoom in, you can just about make it the remains another massive StarFort. Now, what I've shown you has not been the most spectacular examples of StarForts, but can you consider for a second the amount of earth needed to be removed, the amount of construction and work that has went into what we have seen so far? And as you can see, this massive wall does not stop. It continues on. There is another petal. And for anybody to tell us this wasn't an advanced empire that created this, they're barefaced liars. Where any modicum of common sense, it becomes blatantly obvious that once upon a time on this planet there was a single unified people, and because they were unified, because they worked together, we were able to create some amazing structures. As we can see, these petals continue. There is another. There is another. And another. And even more. Now look at how perfect the geometry of these massive walls are. If anybody can point me to a wall that compares to this in modern times, other than the Kitai wall in China, and again, even then it sort of pales in comparison, but just look at the scale of this. Petal after petal after petal, and these structures are perfect. And they join all these StarForts up. Now bear in mind, look, petal, 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 it carries on. There is no modern explanation for these structures whatsoever, especially not on this scale. One of the more amazing star fortresses is Krasny Yar Star Fortress. You can see that today this has remained in fairly decent condition. However, I believe this is only a part of what was once in this place. As you can see, there is structures reminiscent of hidden star fortresses or covered up star fortresses, and you can see that carries on all the way to the water. So I believe that this was probably, as you see, with most star fortresses, there is a larger star and then a smaller star pointing at the bigger star. I think that's exactly what we're looking at here. But if we follow this giant wall even further, sorry, I'm not very good at Google Maps. Keep following our giant wall. In fact, I'll save us some time just so you can see. There is still petal after petal after petal. So how many miles have we covered now? You see structures such as this. Is this modern? This wall certainly almost 100% without a shadow of a doubt is not modern. Is this outline here modern? We'd be left guessing. But petal after petal on this giant wall, this wall blew my mind when I seen it. Absolutely blew my mind. And if anybody's seen this for the first time, leave me a comment and let me know what you think, because I went to bed that night and had dreams about this wall. We will just zoom it quickly. This wall carries on all this way until we get to the next star fortress. And just so you know, it's not the only fortress in town, but it is fairly clear that there's that wall, and here is a star fortress built onto the wall. Now, why mainstream sources, mainstream historians didn't want to give us an explanation for this, I don't know. Why the Russian government doesn't want to take credit for such an amazing history is beyond me. But that's the world that we live in. People make money, people have influence, and people control us for very particular reasons. If you ask me, I think the reason for this vast cover up is fear. I think they're absolutely terrified of being caught out. We can see here, not far from the wall, next to another source of water, is another star fortress that we can just about make out the remains of. Like I said, for some reason, trees love growing along the earth and ramparts of these fortresses. It's almost as if something improved the quality of the soil. If we zoom out, we will get to Chernovka. And what do we see here next to the wall? But the remains of yet another star fortress. This is a fairly bad example, but you can just about make it out there. And it sits along the site of this massive ancient wall. We'll zoom out a bit again, just to get a wee bit of perspective. As you can see, this wall clearly forms some form of defensive line. And I could spend hours. See, if we zoomed in on this map and went inch by inch by inch, we would not. This is not the limit of what we would find. We would find thousands of things. I've not managed to mark everything I've found on these maps. But here we have, what is this? Oh, it's not, because it's not showing us. But here we have another star fortress that sits along this massive wall, or a redoubt, or you call it what you want. But you can quite clearly see the geometric structure, and it sits along this massive, look there, this wall is continuing even still. Massive ancient wall with defensive fortifications the entire way along. How much earth are we talking about being moved now? 1,000 tons? 10,000 tons? 100,000 tons? With diggers. People with shovels. And it's not just soil, there's rocks in here, I was a landscaper for 10 years of my life. This is an impossible creation without advanced technology. We could not do it. Even keeping a line that perfect would be impossible. And yet mainstream historians would lead us to believe that men with shovels, and no very good shovels by modern day standards either, created this. And what we can see here, if we follow this wall along as it cuts off, is the remains of yet another massive fortress, which history or the controllers have done an absolutely perfect job of covering up. And this massive wall continues. Now, tell me this isn't blowing your minds. This wall alone is I could spend 100 years studying it. I could walk the length of this wall. And in fact, I intend to, as soon as we're allowed out of house again, and find everything I can find out along the way. But we'll just quickly zoom along. There's this wall continuing. Look, there's some more petals. And we'll just quickly zoom along to the next fortress or redoubt along the way. What is this one? We'll zoom in and see. Some of these I can't remember, so use a with me for the ride. And again, look at this massive wall, this absolutely perfect wall. In a barren landscape. A barren landscape that for some reason has perfect lines, perfect parallel lines and right angles. Almost as if the entire city has been wiped off the face of the earth. But that would be pure speculation, and the people we're up against love speculation, because any speculation can lead to false claims, and they tear us to shreds for pointing out anything wrong. What they can't tear us to shreds for is telling them that this wall could not be created in modern times, and it definitely couldn't be created without the use of advanced technology. Even the mathematics involved in creating this wall are staggering. And it continues. So, like I say, we will zoom out and we will look at the next one along this massive wall. We have here nothing much. What do we have here? Oh, another StarFort. And you can just about make it the petal here. But again, how many tons of earth are we into now? This is human history that is being covered up. This is the history of people, and it's on our backs to reclaim it. It would be so easy to let all of this slip into obscurity, but we cannot and we must not allow that to happen. And again, you can see here, like I says, the trees love growing along it. Massive geometric structure, but what's that here? That is a StarFort petal. You'll have to excuse me 2 seconds, guys. I've got cats going crazy again. 2 minutes. That it wasn't too bad. They chilled themselves out. If you hear noise in the background of these videos, I have not only got a 2-year-old kid, I have 4 cats, used to have 5, 4 cats, a husky and a labradoodle. Because if we don't share our lives with things we love, what is the point? This, I could find no information about. I remember this one, but it's another beautiful StarFort, another perfect StarFort, which would have taken a staggering amount of effort to create. And to modern day interpretation, when we look at this is just lines in the dirt. And again, I believe that was a readout. This is just lines in the dirt. But what effort would have went into creating this? And what is the history of this area? How many people lived here, breathed here, bred here, loved here? And it's gone. It's lost. And it sickens me. What isn't lost, however, is this absolutely massive fucking wall. And you can see the geometric perfection continues. Would we be fools to speculate that these halls were the remains of some ancient structures? I don't think so. But let's follow our giant perfect wall. Look at the distance between these two. So we need to create this giant structure and this giant wall. We have the man-hours. Didn't even worry about it. We've got the man-hours to create this as well. Another ancient fortress. I don't believe what they're telling us
Yes,
for
we
1
are
second.
learning.
And
And to answer your question, New Zealand Oz, or Tigers New Zealand, my apologies. How high? Probably 2-3 stories, and then 2 to 3 stories beneath as well. And I'll get into that actually once this video is finished. And I've got 2 more equally long Olaf the Svirker videos. 1 more, or actually 2 more of the walls and StarForts, but we'll just play one of those, as well as the 7,500-year-old ancient Slavic calendar. Absolutely epic. One more time. We're going to, and so bastions and petals and, their batteries. It's, what did they energize? What did these things energize? They energized all sorts of things. But I've got a StarFort presentation for the second half here. So don't go anywhere. Keep watching. It's going to keep blowing your mind.
the history of the people in this area. Like I says again, look here. Does that look like nature could have created the lines? Could have easily been planted, but I've said it before, trees for some reason love to grow along these structures. We can see the petals here are beginning to show their age a wee bit. Trees are growing along them, but they are still fairly obvious for what they are. We will carry on this massive wall until we reach the next Star Fortress, or until we see what pops up next. Conductor Creepost, Conductor Star Fortress, and today we can see even in 2021, or whenever this picture was taken out of a plane window, a giant Star Fortress. A giant Star Fortress that sits along our perfect giant walls. These perfect giant walls would also serve as an absolutely perfect way to transfer power, but again, pure speculation. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. That's how it looks in the snow. The snow shows it for what it is. Not that you can't see when you take a picture of a plane. And we will carry on. This whole area, you don't need to be a genius to know that nature doesn't create lines like this, but it's so easy for naysayers and bootlickers to claim that they were planted. So we'll ignore these, we'll ignore them for what they are, and we will carry along until we get to Andreevka. And here, sitting on our absolutely perfect wall, again, still straight lines. We are now, how many miles are we at now, people? And we must be in the hundreds of thousands of tons of earth moved. We must be in the hundreds of thousands of man hours. There isn't enough time in the day, enough time in the year, enough years in the millennia to create these structures, unless your history stretches back far further than we are told. And another absolutely perfect geometric star fortress. And like I say, think about where we started. We will keep going along our massive perfect wall. Consider for a second how long it would take to walk the length of this wall, never mind to create it. And to create it in a time without electric power tools or heavy machinery. Petal after petal after petal. And also consider for a second the need to build such a wall. Unless the threat is severe, you don't go to lengths like this. And the Zungarian tribes, we'll call them Zungarian tribes, I think everybody knows, they still exist on the face of this earth today, and they are still just as cruel in their intent towards us, but the need was there. Another petal that leads to, I don't know if you can quite make that out, the tip of another massive star fortress. We can see where it once lay. And all of these sites sit along the same defensive wall. Here is another petal. And these people living in these towns will probably not even have any idea that they are a couple of hundred meters away from something of such historical significance. And that is because they're not told that it is historically significant. But we'll keep following our perfect ancient wall. Weathered remains another star fortress there. Keep following it. I just want to show you this wall for a second again. Think about where we started off. Still absolutely geometrically perfect. Now, I believe here, look at the water. I believe here was the site of another massive star fortress. This here being nothing more. Being an absolutely perfect structure which required thousands of man hours and thousands of tons of earth moved. But I believe again it was the smaller structure on a much larger design. Because for some reason, don't ask me why, they put sports fields on a lot of these star fortresses. A lot of the times you can look at a map, find these sports fields, these tracks, and with a wee bit of critical thinking and observation, you find a star fortress. But nevertheless, we'll carry on looking at our perfect wall. We'll keep following it. Look at this, still going strong. And also the same line that they used to carry modern day power lines, but that has surely got to just be a coincidence. The ancients were not that competent with their geodesic surveys, were they? Another perfectly geometrical structure, but it could be modern. This definitely isn't. But we will keep following it, zoom out, keep following it, and we will see what we find. Just realised this has gone 30 minutes. I was intending this to be a wee 10-minute video. And here we have yet another star fortress that sits along this wall. This one has been covered up slightly better. Or lost the time a wee bit more. Malaya. But again, keep going. We're on a mission. In this area. This area is interesting. I'll do a video on this area in itself in the future. We see stuff like this, and it carries on for miles again. But we'll keep looking at our absolutely perfect wall until we see what we pop up to next. And this is the last I could trace this wall. Unfortunately, it ends in Kichui Fortress, and we can see again an absolutely perfect star fortress at the end of this absolutely perfect massive wall. And although the traces are faint, there is still, you can see this wall continued this far perfectly. And if I zoom out, I'll end this video here because I could go on all day. I'll pick it up at Kichoi Fortress in the next video. If you guys enjoyed this, if you guys didn't quite dig it as much, let me know and I'll not do anything like this again. This is one of my more, I find this more fun. I'm quite interested in just looking at aerial photography. We can see here, I thought since it popped up, the remains of another star fortress, except time has been less kind to this one. Time or the sensors have been less kind to this one. But anyway, guys, I'm trying to get out as many of these videos as I can, but at the same time, I'm not going to rush them away. I want to give you guys good videos, but I get excited to get carried away. If you guys enjoyed this, let me know, and I will do plenty more of them because, as you can see,
we did enjoy them, Olaf. We still enjoy them to this day. So come back, continue kickboxing because you're good at it by the looks of it. Referring to Olaf's Instagram account, and yeah, talk to Olaf a bit, email him back and forth. But yeah, he hasn't done a video in a couple years, and he's just so good at it. He needs to come back, and we'll do one more by him before this is all said and done. And today, if you've noticed, I've had the orange light, feeling the fall, right? So orange theme, but then, wow, we can go blue and purple just like that, or maybe we can go green or yellow. Oh, yellow. We're in a yellow world now. Back to orange. Maybe a little pinky. We're in a pink metaverse world, purple, blue. How do you do? How does BurnEye the Alchemist change the color of all the homunculus at once? I don't know. You tell me. That's your woo-woo mystery of the day today. All right, so I promised a part 2. Should probably start getting into that, shouldn't I? The StarForts. This is what we are going to get into and go deep into. And what needs to be done is dug into the deepness of what Olaf was just sharing and showing, and these bastion walls, what I have dubbed and called the Great Wall of Tartaria, which it is, okay? This, oops, wrong button, but we're gonna get there here together. We're doing it together, doing it together, doing it together. That's what happens. I start singing a little jingle at 7:23 in the morning. It's far past my bedtime. I start a new job tomorrow on Thursday, which is great. But this episode is 3 days in the making. That's how much time I put into the resources of going out and finding the pictures and the sources and organizing it. But here we go. Look at the length of just one of these segments and how deep do they go. Most likely 3, 4, 5 stories deep, I would imagine, as they're often at least 2 to 3 stories above ground with 2 to 3 stories below ground in every single StarFort. And here we go. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, look at this. This is a 2-story, 3-story cathedral right here. See, on top of another 2-story castle. Okay, it's 5 stories on top of this bastion castle. Okay, the battery castle. Like, look at these. These are townhomes that are 2 stories, maybe 3 stories tall themselves, each one of those. All right, so look at that. And then this is rockers, those houses as well. Wow, look at that. That's houses on houses, is it? Crazy. I'm so No, those are walls. That's castle. That's megalithic wall. Like that's just castle. Look at all this castle. Like the scope and the size of this is absolutely insane. This being this famous Portuguese one, and the terraforming to make this. Who did this? Not people with horseback and buggy. Okay, that they did not make this. Like, I'm sorry. They did not make this either. People that supposedly didn't even have the balloon. How did they survey this? Why did they make it? How did they make it so perfect? We don't make these intricate, this perfect today anymore. We can't even, I doubt. This one as well. It's actually castle, starforts, and castles all within it. Quite crazy. Look at that. Those are apartments. What look like apartments. Look at that. That's a little cathedral right here. 2-story cathedral. It's just nuts. Like, how? Why? We can't even maintain them today. They're all falling apart today. Just gross stuff. They try to bury them. And like, look at this. So just random in the desert. This one maybe in Bahrain or Tajikistan somewhere. Maybe this one actually even in Arizona or New Mexico. Could be any of them, but chances are that's 4 or 5 stories, maybe 20 stories below if they're the same size, each one of them, right? It's nuts, the actual scope of these things. And there's tens of thousands of them. Who built them and why? So yeah, here we go. This little, right, this freaking 3-story cathedral on a 3-story castle on another 3-story castle. That's 9 stories on what, another 3 or 10-story freaking battery. That's on another freaking 3 or 10-story battery. That's on another layer of 3 to 10-story. Like, it's just the scale is absolutely insane. It's mind-boggling. Who had the resources to do this and why? I don't buy it. Like, I just don't buy it. Like, that should all have moat water in it, but you know, we can't even maintain these things today. Let alone build them. Right, barely maintaining one of these ones. Oops. So, but look at this. None of the moats, none of the canals, sorry, have water running in them. So half of it's not even maintained, all overgrown. Barely, like the outer rings, you can see this is abandoned. So this whole structure probably is 3 to 10 stories deep, going all the way out to these bastions and dry canals and stuff. It's just, these are megascope things. Like, look at that. This is absolutely insane in scope and size and the amount of terraformed earth required. So here we go. Look at this bastion one. And oh, it's just a little battery. Oh no, they made it out of brick, just a little bit. No, look at this. This is a 4-story castle. This is a 4-story castle right here, ladies and gentlemen. So for scope, who the heck built? Oh, just a 4-story castle? No. This freaking, what is this? This has got to be 4 or 5 stories tall, same as this castle. and then down another 4 or 5 stories. Like, it's just, and these are the basics. This is just the basic one. You've seen the ones that go like 4. This is in Poland again. Like, it's the shape of magnetron. They call it a keyhole, but magnetron, potentially focusing energy, like potentially. Is that what this battery's doing? Charging up, firing all out. The sun and the moon charging it. I think astrologically that makes sense. I see, but they're missing the water, right? It's all about the water. Like, who made these? They're documenting this. They're not building it. Look at this. We can't even maintain it today. It's abandoned. People can't even live in it. It's just, it's so much. It's crazy. Like the groundskeeper's house right here. This is the person that like manages the property. Like the alcoholic uncle that like survived the war. You know, like the person that lives today. That's their house. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's just, it's forgive me for the Polish drunk uncle reference. Is this a nuclear reactor? Like, what is this? What, you know, like your freaking portion field reactor, maybe? I don't know. Scalar reactor. What are these things? They're nuts. Look at these fractal ray antenna. Waveguide gen. Like, it's just, the scope blows my mind every time. Literally thousands of them. So this one though, right? Look at the amount of terraforming. Like, they had to make this mountain. How did they do that? And to tie it back to Nan Madol, this is looking pretty Nan Madol-y right here, if I don't say myself. Pretty Nan Madol-y. And that is our word of the day. Nan Madol-y. If you're feeling Nan Madol-y, well, it's time to roll up a doobie and look at Nan Madol. And it's an hour and 20 minutes in, 7:30 a.m. My goodness, I should get to bed. Once again, the Pentagon, that is this mysterious island of Nan Madol, that is StarFort. Look at this. StarForts that are, look at this, petals, the bastion petals. All right, and the canals. This is Nan Madol, what they officially recognize, but in fact, you can see it's in the back. It's the whole islands. It's this whole crazy Pentagon island in the Pacific, artificially created in the middle of nowhere. Let me know in the comments what you think. So Jeremiah, did you want to jump on, or am I playing this last video and calling it a day? Let me know. Everything helps for donations. If anybody can spare something to help fund the next episode of this work. But I'm going to be doing, it reminds me, fundraising. All right. So a lot of inquiries on the clothing, and I still have Nan Madol up, so I should probably get rid of that. And I should probably get rid of that. And it probably shouldn't be that guy. It should probably be this. And then there we go, the t-shirts with the designs on them. And I got 15 different shirt designs out, the most popular ones. Oh, we've got a Jeremiah. Welcome, Jeremiah. Good day, sir.
Well, per the usual, it's probably going to crush my audio quality, but nevertheless, yeah, I kind of caught most of your stream. Was interested in several of the structures, some really fascinatingly large and absolutely megalithic things. It's just shocking that as much as we hear about some of these other megaliths, the pyramids and structures like our modern megaliths, the Eiffel Tower and whatever. We never hear about these things, which are by order of magnitude just tremendously larger, and some of them spanning as far as on the vertical plane. Their build out and their total mass is even larger in some cases than the Great Pyramids, but yet nothing is really mentioned about them, which is kind of strange.
Right? Like they're not even officially acknowledged. It's like these things are literally like the size of the Giza pyramids, and like every single one could be buried. It's nuts, especially the island ones, all the artificial islands. It's insane.
And I suppose the one thing I haven't really done in terms of due diligence in first realizing the existence of these structures all over the place, spread across the globe, and secondly, in realizing the sheer size and the location of not just the fact that they're big buildings, because that's nice and all, but that these buildings were integrated into a working ecosystem of water flow, agriculture, and defense all simultaneously. And so I think one of the most interesting parts of considering these massive structures is that a huge number of people could have lived there. They would have been pretty well protected, and they shaped the land into the structure itself. Right. So instead of a Roman culture like what we have today, which is based on the Roman heritage of individual buildings separated by nice uniform blocks with some kind of centralized distribution system of delivery of goods and then removal of the waste products. What they did instead is build these giant singular structures and shape the land to supply these structures in the surrounding area with all the necessary resources so that they would not have to travel very far and they could maintain their defenses at all times, which kind of makes one wonder why such a huge defensive capability, why the shapes. I don't think that these structures were built sheerly for the sole purpose of looking cool. Okay, they obviously are defensive structures. Many of them have, the classic kind of castle staggered top bricks where good and still easily hide behind a brick and send something out at the enemy, or they would basically be able to view without having to be too exposed, right? Not popping their heads above the walls. So I wonder what was going on at the time that they were built. I wonder when they were built, and the fact that there's basically no historical information for most of these structures, and what does exist is, well, quite speculative at best. It doesn't one wonder.
So this wall, the giant wall that I'm calling the Great Wall of Tartaria that Olaf the Fricker was showing there, and let's see if I got a picture up of it quick here. This one right here that spans from the Sea of Azov in Crimea in the Black Sea all the way through Ukraine, through the Donbass, through Siberia to the current Russian Arctic or Siberian Arctic, used to known as the Sea of Tartaria, and like, wow, look at the size of this. It's way bigger than the Great Wall of China. It's probably several stories deep buried, complete uniform, and there's a StarFort, one of those batteries, every one of these guys every like kilometer or mile or so along the thousands of miles that it goes. No history of it whatsoever. Yet, so this book is 1500s. So the 1500s they're talking about.
I just realized the obvious answer to my earlier statement and something that I've been wondering forever, which is why are these things never talked about? Well, here's the thing. We only are taught about cultures that still exist, have stemmed from cultures that still exist and are connected to them. The Great Pyramids are still connected to the modern Egyptian culture, who claims that they have the history for them, even though we know that ancient Kemet was extending far back before the modern Egyptian Historical Society would like people to believe, and that these structures were built far before the timestamps that they would like to place on them, right? So, but they're still connected to it. So we know about the Great Pyramids at Giza and the various other structures across Egypt because there's an advantage for the culture. But how could we hear about Tartaria and who's going to promote it if the entire culture, the entire society of what was left over is gone? There's nobody to promote it. There's nobody to make money from it. It's not a tourist attraction anymore because nobody's, collecting ticket prices, right? So there's nobody to tell the story, right? And that could explain exactly why history is told by the victors, as they say, well, if the Tartarians effectively have split up and divided and, been distributed about the world, taking their culture, their knowledge, and their information with them, hence why we see the same symbology and the same types of architecture spread throughout such a wide distance. They clearly knew how to travel. They got around. But something must have happened where they really spread out. And so maybe there was just nobody left to tell the story. Maybe they were too busy surviving after something horrible happened to worry about trying to maintain history.
Right? Absolutely. It's the only thing that makes sense because, like, on the scale of what is left, because these are brick or like block more likely, and one surviving one that, these used to be cityscape things. It's the scale is just
the one thing that I would love to separate is the whole mud flood concept with Tartaria. They've become synonymous and associated with each other in the community.
See, with mud flood, what I think is like, okay, so just like lahars from volcanoes, tsunamis, floods, like actual, like what we see now, like hurricanes, like these atmospheric river things, just crazy amounts of waters, or
my main point to bringing that up, was that a lot of people think that Tartaria ended with the mud floods, but really those were a lot more recent, and we know that they were because the structures affected are a lot more recent. And these older star forts, I mean, I don't have the data for some of the dating on these materials, or if there was even any possible way to realistically check and see how old they were. But I suppose we would have to find artifacts or natural materials within the structures or somewhere on the site that were buried, like pieces of wood or whatnot, where we could actually carbon date them from nature, because any stones that were moved are still going to contain incorrect information. So we're going to get an incorrect dating method. We needed something that was living and growing and consuming resources from the earth at that time to do any kind of correct dating methods. But provided that we could find those types of things that were preserved from around the same time as those forts were built, I don't know, maybe little pieces of material within the structure itself, just things that happen to find their way into there, maybe a little piece of wood, somewhere within, like, the brick or the cement or whatever they used. Maybe we could find out how old they actually were. And that would really tell us a lot of information as far as, what could have happened and maybe how long ago it was.
Yeah, like, so the supposed, a lot of the battery ones that they find in America, like, always this size, always that shape, and the ones buried in the U.S. or that remain like these, that when they try to claim where the bricks come, they're like, oh, they shipped them over from England.
Wow.
It's like, what? Like, okay, so on sailboats, they ship billions of bricks. Like, no, they didn't. It's insane. It's insane what they claim.
Yes, it is. And speaking of insane, I'll just throw this out there for anybody listening. If you or a friend happens to have a whole bunch of those little radioactive elements from the inside of fire detectors, fire alarms, they contain Americanium-241. I'm looking for about 30 of those. So, pass it along. Not like anybody in the audience is probably going to know somebody that does, but if so, yes, I'm quite willing to pay shipping on that and compensate a bit for it.
So you need 30 iridium thingies from fire detector thingies.
Yeah, I need the Americanium. It's
Americanium, sorry.
So basically, it's tossing out continuously high energy electrons, and if they happen to get blocked, then the detection of the inside of the fire detector will notice a difference in the voltage, and it will identify that as, hey, there's smoke or there's some kind of thing that's going on because of a fire, right? So those radioactive sources are synthetic, man-made. They last about 20-year half-life, I think they are. And anyways, because they're great electron sources and they're a metallic conductor, I can utilize them in a particular device that I'm working on. And they'll be an ideal source of emission as a cold cathode. Let's just say it has to do with warping space-time.
I feel, yeah, I see it. I wouldn't doubt that anything you ever ask for that you're looking for with a high priority does not have to do with trying to get to warp space-time, my friends. That is your mission, your life goal, and I can't wait till the day that we're riding that warped waves and portals and whatever way we figure out or you figure out to get her done. And we'll have some fun. And were these guys doing it? Like, why? There must have been a reason that's pointing these arrows as directions from above, maybe. Like, keep going this way, keep going that way.
Beyond what certain subsets of alleged Tartarian culture could have discovered about utilizing natural electrical energy, there's one thing that needs to be pointed out about these structures, and it's that they utilized nature around them, and their locations were specifically chosen to make maximum utilization of the resources, the natural resources, right? So instead of building cities and artificially pumping things through pipelines that were put in, they just simply created causeways and found locations that were ideal to support their infrastructure. And that's something totally different than what we do today. Right now, we cluster ourselves into cities. We pack it as tightly as possible so that people don't have to go very far. And what it allows is a complete control system between the supplier and the consumer, because it has to go through a middleman, or the supplier oftentimes is their own middleman and has a distribution network. But it does allow complete control. And in these types of systems of the ancient cultures, well, that control would have absolutely not operated that way. I mean, if people wanted food, they would have had to grow it and they would have had to work it. But if you had enough people, you're going to have specializations, and specialization is how you move from, a Stone Age into a modern age, where people get really good at something because they have the time and the resources to get really good at just one thing. They get better than anybody else had been at that thing up to that point. And clearly, like, a lot of these structures are the signatures of architects, masons, and agriculture engineers who had reached a peak of their understanding for how these things work and designed massive systems that were functional at the time that they were built and used. So it's an advanced, it's an advanced thing that you wouldn't see these structures from people that just had a goal to build something big or dumped a bunch of resources in it and something like that. They had a goal ahead of time. Nothing was made before that was done. Did I lose audio?
No, I can hear you all, brother. And what you're saying, all right, it's trying to make sense of it. And why do they put so much resources in, and how off we are today with what we're doing in our society? We're the exact opposite. I think.
In their society, they had to work together to survive. And it was, I guess, more tribal, but a lot more unified, a lot more family. My guess is that everybody that lived in one of those StarForts or around the area was pretty much considering themselves as one large township, one large family. And today, the way that we do it is if you're not doing good enough, you got to find somebody to step on in order to get ahead. And that's such a backwards, completely scarcity-based idea that was sold to us. And the only reason why we think scarcity is so strong and prevalent is because there's a middleman controlling the supply chain, and people have never learned the skills of supplying themselves with the things that they need to survive. Actually, studies were done. You'll find this interesting, and I'll mention this quickly. There have been several studies done about the concept of scarcity and its psychological impact on human behavior. And one of the ones I just want to mention the result of is they taught people, a group of select individuals that had the land space and the resources to basically farm their own food and put their own solar panels up and provide for themselves so that they could be independent. And what they found, and they picked people specifically that had these resources but were also heavily dependent on the external environment and lived in fear and lived with this mentality of scarcity and were basically depressed. So when taught these things and after implementing them, and this study went on for I think 2 years or something like that. That's how long it took for the mentality to change and for all the stuff to be installed on these people's sites. Anyways, yeah, what it showed is that when people were independent, every single fear and anxiety that they had about life, everything from the relationship anxieties to the conspiratorial mindset and the paranoia, all went away. And they started to become creative, artistic, expressive, and mentally balanced because they no longer had to worry about whether or not somebody else could screw up their life or the safety of their existence. And it's a really profound concept because most people do live in some amount of fear. If they screw up at work, they could be fired. How will that affect their family? They might lose
Speak out and say the wrong thing and offend the wrong Karen or snowflake, and you're gone these days.
Right, but the truly bold people, the ones that are just oftentimes really offensive, and I'm not talking about the arrogant ones that can't back it up, but the people who
The brutal truth with no filter. You're right? Gonna get that brutal honesty every time.
That's right. There's no reason for them to lie because there's absolutely nothing that they need to worry about. There's no lie they need to be worried about protecting. So they're just going to tell you straight up as it is, the harsh truth. A lot of people don't like that because it kind of breaks their fantasy world, but doesn't change a damn thing. I mean, reality is what it is. So we should be able to actually be self-sufficient, need be. And it's a shocking tragedy how rare that actually is.
Well, and that's the goal to our long-term goal and mission with the work we do with these channels is to get that self-sufficiency and that abundance going again, as well as figure out where we came from and how the ancients did it for so long, and how they made these magnificent monuments of monumental magnitude. It's just mountainous. It's just, I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Just
let me compliment you too, Burn, because at least you can say you practice what you believe in. You do have a garden outside. You have practiced growing your own food. You played around with these concepts, and you're familiar with alternative energy ideas should someday you ever need to implement them, right? So it's not like you're just a passive bystander curious about the topics. No, you've actually got the ability to walk outside and within 30 seconds show that you're doing the work. So that's what's important. And yeah, I mean, the work, it may not be the stuff that I'm particularly interested in, but the fact is that it's
right. I do got my purple water that I drink. I drank it myself. I make it. I garden with it, and we get good results. But I don't recommend guinea pigging on yourself. Just let me do it for everyone. Right? I don't know. Unless they're, I don't know. No health advice given. Don't be stupid, kid.
Oh man. Well, if this thing works, I'll tell you. If this little photon spacecraft concept works, which I should probably mention since that's what I was posting about in the comments. The way that it works is stupidly simple. I mean, it's like the simplest, most elegant of Quincy Sinclair's patents, which everybody hates Quincy Sinclair except for those who can grasp the fact that he's misusing the terms in physics by recontextualizing them to span a wider scope of what they were designed for. But forgive that. And the photon spacecraft is simply this. It's a sharp-edged ring, like Xena the Warrior Princess throwing ring. Just imagine that thing as an ion emitter where electrons fly off the edge. Then it's a big solenoid magnet in the middle. And then there's some kind of shape of a hull that looks like a flying saucer surrounding the electromagnet, but doesn't extend to the edge of the corona ring. And the idea is this. The electromagnet produces a magnetic field. The electrons that fly off the edge of the corona ring try to reach the hull, which is positively charged, the opposite of the negatively charged corona ring. But they can't take a straight path because they have to pass through the magnetic field of the solenoid. So they make lots of tiny little circles. And when they make these circles, they produce something called Bremsstrahlung radiation, or braking radiation, which is what happens when an electron changes direction as it's moving through free space. Luckily, you can still do this in atmosphere. It's also known in modern times as synchrotron radiation, being produced by synthetically altered magnetic fields, but Bremsstrahlung radiation and synchrotron radiation are just two different examples of the exact same effect, an electron taking a curved path in a magnetic field, aka the Lorentz force in action from a charged particle. Well, what does this do? It makes lots of long wavelength photons, and they fill the space around the craft. Eventually, the density of those photons becomes large enough where the mass energy equivalence, E equals mc squared, right? The photons contain momentum and energy, and space-time has a background energy. So the photon energy becomes larger than the background energy, and all of a sudden the space-time starts to warp. And based on where the photons are concentrated, the space-time warps more in that direction. So you can generate a vector force. But eventually the craft gets surrounded by a brilliant visible light. And at that point, it can basically move freely with virtually zero inertia. And it's able to do this all the way into space because the electrons can be emitted from the edge and recollected by the hull in the vacuum as well, hence vacuum tube technology. So in space, it becomes effectively a working vacuum tube. And in the atmosphere, it becomes a
plasma plummeting into space-time through vortices, essentially magnetic field force.
Yep, through the magnetic flux, the torsion tensor, the electrons take a cyclotron path and produce Bremsstrahlung radiation. Hence, those are little vortices or perturbations, turbulation in the background vacuum, or the aether, as I like to call it. And so it should basically stress epsilon mu, change the refractive index, and curve space-time to the point where the speed of light is changed. And all it is a magnet, a corona ring, and
What's this corona ring? Like a corona ring, I'm thinking either like the sun in the heavens or like a halo around an angel, and then is that like godly technology, maybe, this halo?
Okay, think about it this way. The corona ring in this particular design that I'm testing today, it's a 3.5-inch hard disk platter that has been sharpened to an edge so that it's a good electron emitter. And then in the center, I've put insulating material so that a tube can be passed through it and there are no arcs from the inside hole towards the inside tube. So it's just a hard disk platter that's been sharpened at the edge, like a giant roller cutter blade. And then there's a magnetic field in the center of that tube that passes through it, sort of like the magnetic field that was allegedly in the ARV. And I wouldn't doubt that these two effects are actually quite
well, it's
related.
When you create those plasma bubbles, right? Like they've been described, they've been shown so many ways. I've seen what look like so many legit videos of them, and talked to so many people that shot those videos, experienced them, and It's like ball lightning as well. It's this plasma tech. It's crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna get to the point of being it'll start out as a cold plasma because just pumping electrons out of the edge of the disk and letting them fly towards the anodes is already a cold plasma. So that's what Salvador Payas called a non-equilibrium plasma, or a plasma made primarily of a singular charged particle that doesn't contain an even number of charges. So you're basically not ionizing the atmosphere. Instead, you're just pumping extra electrons into it. And what that means is the atmosphere is negatively charged. It's not just simply ionized, but it actually contains a net scalar potential of all the extra electrons that don't have any place to bind with atmospheric molecules or gases. And that non-equilibrium plasma, when excited or caused to move at all, even with sound waves, can produce these types of effects of extremely high energy levels. But in Sinclair's case, he's like, well, don't mess with any of that. Just use a big magnet and set up the fields correctly at the right angle. Then you don't need any of that other stuff. So I'm like, okay, Sinclair, I'm going to try this. Yeah, this is a simple idea. I'm absolutely going to build this.
And after you run it the first time, you're going to run it a second time in water so that we can observe the field force interactions in the water.
Absolutely not.
You're like, no, it's going to completely short it out. But
well, no, you're forgetting how, I guess I didn't tell you, this device is going to operate at 160,000 volts.
Perfect.
That's not going in water.
Why not? I wanna make like crazy fusion reactions and crazy other things happen.
I'll tell you what, if I get the photon glow, and we can get to that point, I may try to see if it has a compression force against the surface of water, and if it does displace it, then maybe we'll try to go full immersion. But let's just get to the breaking radiation point. I'll have the Geiger on the ready. My Geiger counter could detect basically every type of radiation that I would be producing here. It can produce alpha, beta, and gamma emissions. It can produce cosmic radiation. It can detect X-rays. Sorry if I said produce. I meant detect. It can detect X-rays as well, and it can detect a variety of other wavelengths because it has a micro window pancake probe. So it's
a real deal Geiger counter, not no cheap one off of Amazon that like will get falsely triggered by UV light or something. It's
this isn't going to be triggered by any of those things. It's just sensitive to basically anything that could effectively ionize materials. So any ionizing radiation, this thing can detect in any form whatsoever, up to just a very tiny fractional level of what you normally get detection of. So they claim that the probe is 17 times more sensitive, but from my test, it appears to be something more like 36 times more sensitive. It's a homemade unit. Some guy on eBay built them, and he's selling them. They're awesome. And I modified my CBD 700 good old-fashioned cold era yellow Geiger counter to accept that probe, and it works great.
Nice, brother. That's what I love to hear. All right. Well, I am falling asleep, sadly, as it is 8 a.m. here, and I have to actually start a new job tomorrow. So I should probably
What's your new job, buddy?
call it a day. I'm going to be doing vinyl packaging, I believe, putting stickers on cannabis or CBD THC infused coffee products, supposedly. So, hey, get burn crawling and have your morning coffee CBD. Maybe you'll see me streaming from there.
Man, you are true to your name through and through, aren't you?
Right? That just the way the universe works. It's something else. I love it. I love all of you. I guess this concludes the episode of Woo Woo Wednesday, Madol, StarFort, and all. And we'll catch you on the next one. Ta-ta.